Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, I'm joined by Vincent LaRussa, and we discuss the crazy year that was 2020. We take a look and discuss some of the albums that came out, the tours that were canceled, some of the concerts we were able to see, some of the people who unfortunately passed on, and some of the accomplishments we had during the year. I'd like to say a personal thank you to everybody who's watched and listened over the past year. During this last year alone, I've had over 1.5 million views and streams across all my platforms. Thank you guys so much. I'm truly honored. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well. Now, without further ado, let's jump in and get started about our conversation of the year that was 2020. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of the Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn. On this episode, we're going to be wrapping up the year 2020 with my good friend, as I like to call him, my partner in crime, friend of mine for about 3 years. That's our running joke. Mr. Vincent LaRussa, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah, I figured, you know what? I always shortchange us by a number of years, so I figured now I'll just say 3 years instead of 30 or 40, and you always correct me that I get the wrong number anyway, so...
Yeah, you usually say 40, and I usually say it's 45.
That's right. I'm just trying to forget that it's that long. Oh, man. So, like I said in the introduction here, we wanted to kind of take this opportunity to go over the year that is now wrapping up, right? We're recording this. It's less than a week left in the year. We like to call these our review of Boo Boo Boo. And I think for some people, 2020 is definitely Boo Boo Boo, right? Boo Boo Boo. So, yeah. You know, it's been a little bit of a crazy year. I think back to, I think it was March, you and I did a podcast together right after I had gone to the Kiss show in March. And I had told you that I saw a few people, especially on the stage, wearing masks. And, you know, things were just starting to creep up a little bit. But I remember the both of us kind of doing a chat saying, people shouldn't be worried, be safe, take precautions, but, you know, don't stop living life. And, you know, 10 days later, we all stopped living life for a year. So, man, what a crazy year. If I go back and listen to that, I'm like, wow, we were really that, I'll say, oblivious to what was about to come and what was right around the corner for us just a few weeks later. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the mindset wasn't, you know, not near what it is now.
Yep.
You know, I feel like the world has been forever changed with 2020.
Yep.
And I think we've set some precedents that unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to change moving forward in the workplace, things of such, going to concerts and whatnot. But, you know, hoping that 2021 is going to be some more positivity moving forward in the world. And, you know, we talk about music, and that's not really that important in the grand scheme of life. It's important, but, you know, lives are more important than music, although music does contribute to having a good life.
Absolutely.
I mean, it certainly has. I want to say it's kind of saved me through this time. To be alone most of the time, but having music. And
now, were you playing Heart while you were home? Alone. How do I get you? Sorry,
I got your joke. I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just trying to think how to respond. I wish I could sing that song like Ann Wilson can, but wait, then I'd be a female. I got to think about that again.
Oh man, well, a male could sing that song and do it well.
That's true. That's true.
You don't only have to be a female to sing that song, but no, I agree with you. Obviously, live music and music in general is a big part of many of our lives, and you and I were fortunate, I'll say, to be able to actually catch a couple concerts before the pandemic hit, which seems like a lifetime ago at this point, right? But you remember back in, I think it was February. Did you come to one or two Kiss shows with me back in February? I don't recall.
Yeah, we went to the one show in Philadelphia, I believe. That was the last show I went to.
Right. Right, which was,
and we had no clue what was coming at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that was even a show that we did. Oh, the tickets we had pretty good seats, as I remember.
Yeah.
Actually, we made our seats even better. If I remember.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say.
We met one of our friends who was sitting on the floor, standing on the floor, however. And I remember I said to you, again, authorities, please, turn your ears off right now.
Right.
Concert security. I said, all right, I guess we're going to go back up to the seats. And you went, dang, we stay here. I was like, you sure? Like, yeah, we don't move. I was like, okay. And we managed to be, I want to say, what was it, like 10 rows back or something like that?
Yeah,
like
something
standing
like that.
Basically in the aisle because it was so crowded,
Yeah.
And thinking about, today's day, that we could never be on top of each other like we were that day. But
yeah. No, you're right. The security, I mean, we had good seats to begin with. We were like 15 rows up from the side of the stage, but we went down to the floor to see somebody, like you said. And the security didn't care. Like, everybody was just standing in the aisleways. It's not like you and I did something that 5,000 other, well, maybe not 5,000, but certainly hundreds of other people were doing that night. And the people around were very cool. They were like, "Yeah, just stay here, it's okay." And it was a fun night.
Yeah,
David Lee Roth opened the show. It was a good show all around.
Yeah. I think we covered that. Didn't we talk about that?
Yeah,
that
I think.
Show,
Yep.
David Lee Roth.
Yep, I think.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by Dave's performance that night.
Mm-hmm.
And in light of what happened, and I'm sure you're going to get to it with Eddie this year, certainly glad now I get to see guys like David Lee Roth, and hopefully get to see some other artists, while they're still touring and able to perform. So
no, and look, I feel pretty fortunate because as much as there was pretty much no concerts for the better part of most of this year, I actually went to 4 different concerts. I saw Kiss 3 times earlier in the year, right? And I was at the Los Angeles show like about 10 days, maybe less, before the tour came to a stop. And one of the things that sticks out to me, it's not necessarily music related, but Kobe Bryant had just passed away just a few weeks prior to that, and they did a big acknowledgement of him, and they put out purple and yellow balloons for the Lakers, and there was a lot of I don't want to say buzz because that sounds almost positive, but there was a lot of energy about Kobe Bryant passing away and acknowledging that. And at the start of this year, that was one of the bigger news things, and it had nothing to do with music. But I remember being at that concert and being like kind of excited, and I was happy that they acknowledged Kobe. And I saw those 3 shows, and then I was really fortunate. About a month ago, I went to a drive-in concert, right? And you and I think, have spoke about that off camera here, which for me was cool. I got to see the band Kix, and it was outdoors. Everybody, the closest person to me was 20, 25 feet away, and it was an outdoor concert. And it was kind of great to kind of have that experience again and seeing live music. So I do feel fortunate that even in 2020 I was able to see 4 different concerts, and I saw David Lee Roth, I saw Kiss, and I saw Kix, and that's not bad for a year that there was basically no concerts.
No, I think the show that we went to see Kiss was my last show. Obviously not having any other opportunities, I wasn't asked to go to the Kick show. Thanks.
Well, you know why? Because I didn't want anybody in the car with me. There was nothing personal against you.
Well, the funny thing is, not funny thing is, we've seen each other since then. Maybe 3 times, I want to say. I came to your place, and we were able to sit on your patio and social distance, and we listened to music and whatnot. So at least we were able to do that at some point while the weather was still nice. So
right, absolutely. Now, have you taken in any of the live streams, or even I know the Circle with Sammy Hagar this year has done a bunch of quarantine videos, which I thought was really cool. In fact, they said they're going to release it as an album next year, which I think is great. But just yesterday, I know I was always a fan of the band Little Caesar, who opened up for Kiss in 1990, and I watched a live stream from them. About a month ago, I watched a live stream from Jewel, right? Which, in the 90s, I was a big fan of hers as well. Have you watched any of those, or has that not resonated with you?
Trying to think. I think I've seen more videos, not so much live streams, but videos that were posted. I did see a bunch of the Circle videos, any of the stuff that even if it was just solo stuff where, Bruce Kulick is talking about a particular guitar or a, how he recorded the bass, or what bass he used on a particular track. Things of that nature where artists have posted videos because, let's face it, they really have had all the time in the world, and they're still trying to put themselves out there and put content out. So I've kind of paid more attention to that stuff. And as sort of like a selfish segue, just have these artists making themselves available to do recordings and having the opportunity to work with some artists that I probably wouldn't have had that opportunity to do if it wasn't for the pandemic, because let's face it, they'd be out on tour with whatever band they're with. So so that's kind of some positivity, at least on my end, and for other musicians too. So
yeah, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Like, both of us had like good 2020s doing things that maybe we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do first. But before I even get into some of that, right? So you just mentioned the Bruce Kulick videos. And if you remember, at the beginning of the year, Paul Stanley was doing a few videos also, right? I think he did one talking about Love Gun. I think he did one talking about Every Time I Look at You. And then he did like a video with like these medley, like 4 different songs where he played like guitar riffs. And then he just stopped doing them. I don't know what happened there, but he just stopped doing them, right? So to me, those were cool.
Yeah, that was unfortunate because he made it seem like, I'm just going to keep doing this as long as you guys want to. And, Paul's kind of funny like that. I kind of sort of expected it more from Gene, because Gene kind of puts himself more out there, it seems. Strangely, Gene didn't really do anything like that other than like some public service announcements saying like, just, be safe, wear your mask, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. It would have been cool if Gene would have done some stuff, but I think he was also maybe in the midst of moving or something like that. I had heard that he was trying to sell his house or something.
Yeah, I think he was selling his house. I think him and Tommy both sold their houses. Or
I
in
saw
the process.
video. I saw a video of Tommy kind of doing, like, showing that he was all packed up and showing up and stuff. But that was kind of cool.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. But I bring up those Paul Stanley videos because they were cool, right? We both enjoyed them. But also, I remember kind of twisting your arm to do like a unique type of thing. And it was your first opportunity, I'll say, to perform. And I'm using air quotes if anybody's just listening, right? To perform with somebody. But do you remember that? I thought that was a cool video. Yeah.
So what had happened was this gentleman was he from Mexico or Brazil? I don't want to get this wrong.
Yeah, no, I one of the two. I don't know. My apologies. I think his name was Jony.
Yeah, me too. Yes, it was. One, and we could plug it. We could put a link down in the comment area.
Absolutely.
So what he had done was he had taken all the pieces of Paul's performance and kind of spliced them cleverly together, and then he played the drums to it. To which you said, you should play the bass to it. And of course, as I usually do, I'm like, and then you give me the no ultimatum, like, okay, you're doing it. And then
you're doing it, and I want it by tomorrow.
Right. And that was kind of fun because it was like, Paul, if I remember, I think Jony was the main picture, and Paul was kind of in the corner.
Right. Yep.
And so then what I then done was just put myself in the other corner playing the bass to those two guys virtually, even though we were not playing together. But it was kind of a cool experience. To do that, and I don't know if Paul ever saw it, but even if he didn't, it was still cool to do. It kind of gave you the sense of like you were playing with Paul Stanley, because I'm actually watching his hands as he's playing, because he's playing in kind of like a free timing. There was no drum or whatever, but the drummer was there. But I'm kind of watching for when he was changing and stuff like that. So it was cool.
Right. Yeah. No,
I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah. I'm glad I pushed you to do that. I've watched that video a number of times because it's kind of like, if you would have ever thought as a kid, I know you didn't really play with him, right? He, like you said, he might not even know that you ever did this, right? But you'd probably never, as a kid, would even think that there'd be an opportunity like that through, the magic of computers and technology and all of that to kind of splice that together. And it really looks like the two of you guys, or the three of you guys, I'll say, are playing together, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. No, we talk about this all the time. Having these opportunities yourself, having the fortunate enough to interview many musicians as you have, and some other authors and radio personalities is really cool. I don't think we really ever thought about it as kids. I mean, we thought about, oh, we're gonna make it big in some sort of band one day.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we were wrong about that one. But,
you mean Image hasn't become the big band?
No. Unfortunately,
with an image like this, I don't know how we failed.
I don't either. You said it.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that was really cool,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was maybe the beginning of starting to really try and think about collaborating with other musicians virtually.
Right, absolutely, and that's where I wanted to go with this. Right, so then. You know, we were talking before about the concerts and all those things that were canceled, and you're in, how many is it? Like 712 bands? How many bands are you in normally?
Normally about 5 or 6.
Five or six. Oh, sorry.
Who knows now? Who knows what the number is now?
Right.
Know,
and you do everything from your own music. You're in a Motley Crue tribute band. You're in other cover bands, right? So I mean, you really run the gamut, right, of what you're doing. But earlier in the year, I started saying to you, hey, you know, you've got this plethora of material that you've written, and you haven't done anything. And right, so you actually, on a personal level, put out your first album this year, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
go ahead. No, go ahead. Talk about it.
No, it really, I've done this before on my Facebook page and Instagram. I've really thanked you for that, because you really gave me the push. At first, it was like, it started with Jeremy Asbrock. He had posted, and you told me about it, that hey, if you need somebody to record a guitar solo or something, you know, hit me up. And that was in March, I believe.
Yep.
It was like right at the beginning. And I think it wasn't until around May that we were able to make it happen. And originally what was just going to be like one song for him to play on, then it was like, oh, maybe do an EP. Okay. You know, and I think at the same time, Matt Starr had put something out that he was drummer for hire. You basically gave me you contacted Matt.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
And around the same time, you would tell me, and I didn't really know this, that Joel Hoekstra was one of your favorite guitar players. And I knew of Joel, but I wasn't really that familiar.
Sure.
When I saw his body of work, and I was like, wow, this guy's amazing. And then I went back and watched all the clips from that metal show, and him with Whitesnake and whatnot. And we were trying to think of like a guitar player to possibly do some solo stuff. And it was just in a funny conversation. And one of the great things with working with these artists was the phone conversation, like sort of like the launch of the project. And, you know, I had a great conversation with Matt. And he was just saying, and I was telling him like the form of the song. He's like, well, if you're going to get someone like, say, like a Joel Hoekstra to play on the song, you might want. And I said, wait. Are you saying Joel is for hire? He goes, I don't know. I would just reach out to him, see what he says. So it was kind of funny that you said it. And then all the guitar players in the world.
Right. Matt Starr says Joel Hoekstra. Right.
Exactly. And so I reached out to Joel, and he was just on Facebook Messenger. I don't know who his manager is. I don't know who his publicist is. He's just available on Facebook. And I just sent him a message and told him I was working with Matt, told him I did something with Jeremy. And he's like, sure, let's do it. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And funny, I was at your place, if you remember.
I do, yes.
He's like, hey, man, you want to talk about your song? And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was all nervous. I said,
you had to blow me off for like 20 minutes so you could go speak to Joel Hoekstra on the phone.
Right. So I got in my car where I was all by myself and no distractions, and just an incredible conversation. I never felt rushed with him. You know, it was just such a wonderful experience, even to the point where he was like, don't worry about the bread. Those who don't know what bread is, it's money, you know. It's like, no, what are you talking about? Like, he was so humble and just so cool about it. And when I told him what I wanted, it was pretty much like the opposite what he's, I think, really known for, was playing a lot of fast notes.
Right.
And he was so happy to hear that. I love playing melodic solos. And he more than delivered what I asked him for. I asked him for 2 solos. He did like 8 tracks, rhythm tracks, all kinds of stuff that I was just like totally blown away, to the point where you and I think both admit, like, we can't hear that song
without
ever
Joel's parts,
again.
right? Absolutely.
Joel's part. It's just so embedded in the tune, and I'm forever grateful for the amount of time he spent on it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, around the same time, you had just did an interview with Eric Levy. And again, you were the one. He's like, "Oh, you need keyboards on this track. You should contact Eric." And Eric didn't put himself out there saying, I'm doing this.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, sure, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it. And again, when I first heard Eric's parts on the track, it was like the hair on my arm stood up. It was just like, and it was so emotional just hearing, a song that I had kind of in the pipeline for quite some time, so I had performed it live, and hearing these parts that I never even imagined. It was just incredible, experience. So I'm just, I'll be forever grateful for those guys to put the time in, because,
And you said it before. I think, being that it was 2020 and that these guys were not on the road kind of gave you some of that opportunity, right? Because Eric Levy was supposed to be touring with Night Ranger this summer. On the same tour that was supposed to include Whitesnake and Sammy Hagar, right? So Joel and Eric would have been on the road all summer, not having probably opportunities to do something like this. And, I appreciate you always saying, I pushed you. But look, at the end of the day, and you just said it perfectly, you were the one that reached out to Matt. You were the one on the phone with Matt, and Matt tells you should reach out to Joel, right? So my point in bringing this up is that 2020 stunk for a lot of reasons, and we didn't get to go to concerts, and we didn't get as many albums as maybe we hoped. But to me, it's what each of us individually potentially tried to make of the year. And you took something that even 18 months ago, you wouldn't have even thought was ever possible, right? To be recording with the guy that plays with Cher and Whitesnake and TSO and somebody from Night Ranger and somebody from Ace Frehley's band who played with Mr. Big, another guy from Gene Simmons and Ace Frehley's band. 18 months ago, that wasn't possible, but you made it happen during 2020. Yeah. And, that to me is when I think of 2020, there were opportunities like that for everybody. Some people pursued them, others didn't. I'm not judging. But I look back on 2020 with fondness because, and we haven't mentioned the name of the song in the album, so I think you should, because if people are listening to this, they might say, what song are they talking about? So why don't you just mention that for 30 seconds?
Okay. Yeah. So the name of the song is Before the Storm, which is actually the name of the album. It's available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, all the usual outlets. And pretty soon I'll have some news about some other stuff that's coming out in relation to it, which I think people will think is cool. And so stay tuned for that. Yep. And so very proud of it.
And you put out a video for the title track, Before the Storm, that includes Joel and Eric and Matt and yourself, right? So I'll be a sales guy here. Don't worry. Willing to accept me for what I am. Then come with me. I'll take you by the hand. Before the storm, before you come crawling back, before we go under the covers, let's talk to one another before the storm.
Yeah, well, again, you were instrumental in that, because you had said to me, when they do the track, see if they'll give you a video. Again, that wasn't my idea. And everyone was like, yeah, sure. And none of them said, all right, well, that's going to be an extra whatever. And I will say this, too, for those who watch this and are interested, because I don't want to say what the prices were and what they charge, but I'll tell you that it was very, very fair, and I think you get more than your money's worth. So I highly recommend for those people interested in doing something like I did to do it, and do it while you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a matter of fact, I'm, hopefully in the new year we'll do the same. I've already mentioned to Matt that I've had interest in, some other stuff, and, because he kind of checks in with me, which is kind of cool,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
like, so it's kind of, you form these relationships with these guys, and at the end of the day, they're just human, just like you and I. Maybe they've been on the bigger stages than us, but at the bottom line, some people don't mind having to kind of like, I'm not going to say lower themselves, and that's not what I mean. It's just like, you know what? I've been in your shoes. Right. I know what it's like,
Absolutely.
And Matt is a big, opponent of like talking about like he did it later in life and stuff like that. That was really inspirational to me.
Absolutely.
Hear someone like Matt speak like that. So.
Absolutely. And, I'll say on my side, on a personal level, I started doing these podcasts in 2019, right? But to me, it really took off in 2020, and I did about 70 episodes this year. I was going through and looking through it. And, just for people who maybe didn't see all the episodes that, I had on the show, Dee Schneider, Eddie Trunk a couple of times, I had 3 different guys from Kicks, including Steve Whiteman, the lead singer, Brian Forsythe, the guitar player, Mark Shanker, the bass player. Mark Shanker was on my show twice. Bruce Kulick was on. Zach Throne was on. Todd Howarth, John Regan, right? A lot of guys that obviously we're familiar with. Rudy Sarzo, Brad Gillis, Billy Sheehan, George Lynch, Desmond Child twice, Juan Bevois. One of my personal favorites, in fact, I'm wearing the shirt right now, Scott Shiner from Weezer, right? Gary Corbett, you mentioned before, Eric Levy, right? Joel Hoekstra was on my show. Ron Keel was on my show. Matt Starr was on my show. The guys from Nashville.
Incredible.
I'm like, holy crap. And this is not even talking about like the guys that I had on that are like writers, like Greg Prado. And I had Mark Cicchini from Three Sides of the Coin was on. And Eric McConnell, who took some great Peter Criss photos, was on with me. Ron Albanese, who wrote a great book. Andrew Scambatti, who's done some great videos. I'm like, this is freaking incredible. And then I look at it and I say, that's a lot to do in 1 year. And you and I did 20 episodes out, more than 20 episodes ourselves.
Wow.
Because I'm looking through, I'm like, holy crap, you and I actually did over 20 episodes this year. So I look at that roster of people I chatted with and I'm like, again, to me, and the reason I bring this up is not to sit here and pound my chest or for you to pound your chest, but I look back at 2020, and I do this at the end of every year. I usually make a little post on Facebook and like my year in review. And I understand that for so many people, this was a tough year. I get that. I get it. And I'm not minimizing it. I've had it in my own family where some people have struggled. But I could also look back at 2020 and I can say on a personal note, you accomplished a lot, more than maybe you ever would have thought of musically that you could accomplish. I accomplished a lot in my first year of doing a podcast. And you know what? I didn't even mention my first interview I did this year was with Vinnie Vincent, where we spent over 2 hours talking about the Creatures of the Night album, So,
I just had my CDs, from right when we did that. And I was going to bring that up because, again, we always talk about, could you imagine when we were young doing blah, blah, blah. And it was in 2019, but
the very end of the year.
Yeah, but the end of that, the middle of that month of December was when I went up on stage with Vinny and sang 2 songs. And I know you mentioned it recently because it was like the anniversary of that. And again, just thinking about, did I ever think that would be possible?
Right.
No, so.
Right. And that's why I want to bring these things up, because we are doing a year in review here. And there's a lot to be disappointed about for the year. But I look at your accomplishments, I look at mine, and I don't think it's unusual. I don't think we did anything that somebody else couldn't have done if they wanted to. And I guess that's, I always try to remain positive. People always say, you a glass half filled or a glass half empty kind of guy. And I say, I'm happy I have a glass, because as long as I have a glass, I can put something in it at any time I want. And I think both of us chose this year to kind of put a little bit something into our glasses. And I think at the end of the day, for you and I, 2020 had its down moments. I'm not saying it didn't. I know that, especially on your side, you had some rough things recently, but we still had a lot of positives to take away from this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And because this is mostly, if not all, a music podcast, I've told many people that the music is really the thing that, and not to be over dramatic, but it saved me because it gave me something in between all the cracks of being here and just filling the time with some positivity and being focused on having goals and stuff like that. So it was tremendous.
Absolutely. Now, I don't think, we were talking about the concerts before, I actually had a number of summer concerts canceled, right? I had tickets to see Green Day and Weezer 2 different times. I had tickets to see Motley Crue. I had multiple shows for Kiss I was going to go see. I was even going to go see, I don't think you're a fan of them, but My Chemical Romance with my daughter, which was actually going to be one of the biggest tours of the summer. People don't realize it. They were sold out. They had sold out 4 shows here in the New York area alone. So unfortunately, all of those were either postponed or pushed out to next year sometime. But I don't think you had any tickets in hand yet, right?
I did actually, not in hand per se, but I did have tickets for the Motley Crue.
Okay. Def Leppard, Poison, Joan Jett, I think.
As you mentioned, I am in a Motley Crue tribute band. The guitar player had gotten tickets for the entire band, so we were going to go. That was cool. And so I did have that. And, on another note, up to that, we had, I think, the most gigs booked for this year. And we had some pretty high level, like casino stuff in like Maryland. And I mean, Xavier worked his ass off, and I feel really bad because this was going to be a tremendous year for that project. And, obviously everyone was canceled. He had just actually asked for a date in May of next year that we have booked. So we do have one date.
Okay. It's a start. It's a start.
I think it's in Massachusetts, but he's already trying, but it's obviously a very difficult road because we have no idea of when it's going to come back to any sort of normalcy in the country. So
Right. Absolutely. Now, we'd also done during the year a few different episodes on some of the albums that came out, right? Specifically, I remember us talking about the new Ozzy album that came out, which I remember surprised me, right? I did not expect to see a new Ozzy album coming out. I think big news this year was also AC/DC with Brian Johnson returning and finally putting out another album with him, right? But there's other artists that put out albums this year also, right? I think Paul McCartney just recently put out an album. I don't know. Did you buy that? Did you buy the?
I didn't buy it.
Okay.
I'd listened to it, stream some of it, even though, me, I'm a vinyl guy. But I've been a little bit more selective. It was starting to get a bit much, spending $25 to $30 a pop on vinyl.
Sure.
For the most part, as you know, I have a pretty big collection, and I'm going to probably listen to it once.
Do you should display it around you somewhere.
It's only part of it. It goes around the room.
I know, exactly.
There's some good and bad of the, there's some, really kind of cool stuff on there, and there's some stuff where I go, but
okay.
And listen, I'm never going to criticize the man. The guy is, in his first 6 years of his musical life, put out the greatest music that will ever be,
absolutely,
written and recorded. And then he continued to do it in the 70s with Wings and Ebony and Ivory. No. Say. Say.
That's it.
The girl is mine. Okay, So, but I probably just to have to complete my McCartney collection, I'll wind up getting it. I'll break down like I always do, even with the Ace Frehley stuff. When he releases another thing, I'm just like, all right, I've bought enough. I'm not going to get another thing. And I with the Origins that came out, the Origins 2, which we
looks like you have one over your shoulder over there. I'm saying
that was gifted to me.
Okay.
That was a Christmas gift from my brother, because I did say I wasn't going to buy it, because I don't know. I just got overloaded on the Ace stuff, and I kind of figured, well, Christmas around the corner, I could always ask for it. And there it is.
So which one did you get?
This is the.
Which flavor?
This is, what is this? The sky blue colored vinyl. This is like variant number 972 that he came out with?
I think so, yeah. Well, I got variant number 973, actually. Here we go. I got the Christmas one.
Yeah.
With the signed Christmas card in there. It was 15% off on E1, so it was $85 with the signed Christmas card. I was like, all right, call me a sucker. I'm going in.
Yeah, and to that, I talk about suckers. I did get the Trouble Walking.
Okay.
This year.
Right.
Sorry, John Regan.
That's it. All right. Anybody who doesn't know what you're talking about, go back and watch my episode with John Regan. He goes into that. Yeah. So yeah. But we've spoke about this before, that Ace is flooding the market with the records. But you know what? People are buying them, right? If people weren't buying them, the record company wouldn't keep putting them out. Yeah, that's the way I say it. Yeah,
exactly. For those, including myself at times, where you start resenting, an artist for putting out so much product, most time it's motivated by the record company. Let's face it. I was watching a really interesting documentary on recording studios, and they were basically saying how like many of the major recording studios have gone out of business. But people can do stuff in their home. And, although if you want to have that experience of a big room, especially if you're doing a drum track or whatever, you really need to go, unless you're fortunate to live in a house that's built for that. Unfortunately, the business has suffered so much, where a music studio was charging, say, $85 an hour in 1985. They're charging the same now. Right. And we're talking how many years later?
Right. There's no price increase over the years.
So my point being, with streaming, there's been a lot of artists that have spoken out. I think Jimmy Page has recently spoke out about Spotify and how much money, and when you really look at it, like how much money they make or don't make, it's it's really just like an incredible injustice. And I hope they finally get this together because, back in the day when artists were getting royalties from, album sales, vinyl or cassettes or 8-tracks or then CDs, they were making money off that. The producers were getting points, obviously the record company. So what the record companies have figured out is that the thing that does sell these days is vinyl, ironically.
Right, amazing, right?
Backward. So when a company like E1 says, we got a guy like Ace Frehley, a fanatical fan base, we could have 4 different variants of something that he puts out or do a 12-inch single for something for Record Store Day. They know that that's how they're going to make some money, and that's how Ace is going to make some money. Or, especially now with the pandemic, they're not touring. That's how a lot of bands are making money with selling merchandise. They're not making money anymore. No one's really making money.
Right.
The record companies off of selling product, meaning, the music product. It's really a shame. And I don't know if it's ever going to go back to some sort of normalcy. But, it's funny. This started how long ago with Napster? It's probably, almost 30 years ago?
Close to that, probably.
And I remember being back then, those guys are Metallica. Well,
right. Laws, shut up.
What an asshole. What an asshole. Everything should be free.
Yeah,
everything should be free until you're the artist putting it out.
Absolutely.
And even though I don't think I'm going to make any money or putting something out, that's, I'm not thinking on that grand a stage. But it becomes a lot more personal when you do put something out and you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something and your resources and your money. Anybody who records anything had to spend some sort of money on gear. Now, some may go overboard, but
Wait. So pause there.
Yeah.
How many guitars do you own? Just a number.
Bass guitars?
No, let's separate them. Electric guitars and acoustic. Electric and acoustic guitars first. Approximately.
40.
How many bass guitars?
45. How
many snare drums?
60.
Okay, this is why you need to make money from your music.
Exactly. Right, as everybody's Googling, where does Vincent LaRussa
Yeah, exactly. That's
live?
What, 140 musical instruments, right? Now, so let's talk about that for a moment, right? Because 2020, I think you even acquired a few new instruments this year as well, right?
I did.
Yes. Anything at your fingertips that you can kind of show off?
Oh, yes.
Oh boy, there it is.
Yeah. So if you remember, we talked about this at the beginning of the year.
Yes.
I was kind of anticipating this coming out. This is the Tommy Thayer. I'm trying to get it in there.
Yep. Blue Sparkle Epiphone.
Blue Sparkle Epiphone. Really.
Yeah.
And I think we had. Oh, look.
I can see my reflection in it. That's hilarious.
What's that? I think I'm doing the rest of the show like this.
It's a good show.
But yeah. I was kind of anxiously awaiting for them to come out with it. It took a little bit more time than I thought, and I was really excited to get it. It's a really cool instrument. Great weight. I think it actually makes it
nice.
So
very nice. Now, I know that, people in the past have made comments that they're an Epiphone, right? But with all those instruments you own, how do you think it plays compared to your other guitars, right? Because you have some high-end guitars compared to that.
Well, I'll say this about this market. Anybody who has spoken to me, and I want to state right from the onset, I am not buying anything against buying American-made any kind of product. The fact of the matter is that if you want to buy a Gibson Les Paul of this nature, you're going to be in for probably at least $2,000, $2,500, depending on what it is. How it compares, a lot of people say wood is wood, but wood does age a certain way. The thing is, between the Epiphones and the Gibsons is comes down to mostly the finish. Gibson uses a different finish, traditionally what they've used for years. So it's different from the Epiphone. It's a cheaper process, but essentially everything else in this guitar, I mean, it's got Seymour Duncan pickups, which are great pickups. So I always say a lot of it comes down to the electronics of the instrument. If it's a mahogany body with a rosewood neck and whatever, it's basically going to sound around the same, you know, but the electronics was really what's important. And again, this guitar goes for around $850 as opposed to, like I said, $2,000 and up.
Sure.
So for somebody who's, you know, wants to have an instrument like something Ace played, or Peter Frampton, I can name, or Slash, those guys, you know, Les Paul guys, but don't want to spend $2,000, $2,500, they buy an Epiphone. And the good thing is that Gibson still makes out because Gibson owns Epiphone. So it's not like Gibson suffered.
It's a win-win for everybody to me.
It's a win-win for everybody. And a lot of brands, whether it's Fender, whether it's Music Man, they all have a import line that you could buy. So if you don't want to spend $2,000 or up, you can get something for as cheap as $400. And it's and today's standards, everything is like computer, they call it CNC machine cut, and everything's so precise, and it's done so well that people are amazed because a lot of my instruments are actually imports. And you know, there used to be a friend of mine used to say this saying, buy cheap, buy twice.
Okay.
I changed it, buy cheap, buy more. So,
there you go.
Because the quality has just gotten that much better.
Sure.
That being said, I love, you know, the bass that's on my wall up here, which you can see the bottom of it. It's an American-made Fender P bass, which, you know, it's awesome. And I have a Mexican-made one, and I have ones that are made in Indonesia, and I have ones that are made in Singapore. You know, so they all
somewhere in 2021. I think we have to do an episode of the 140 instruments of Vincent LaRussa.
Well, I could talk all day. Don't get me started.
Yeah, no, I know that. You won't be sitting at the computer like you do now. We'll have you like with a camera on a stick, and you walk around. All right, this is the drum room over here, and you'll take out all the snares one at a time.
Yeah. Well, you know, when people say to me, they say, "Well, is there really any difference? Why do you have to have so many?" You know, there's something about a musical instrument it's very personal. That when you put it in your hands, it invokes a certain feeling. You know, when I play this guitar, there's something about when the colors, I see it, it kind of makes you feel. I know it probably sounds ridiculous, but it isn't. You know, something knowing about maybe one of your heroes plays the instrument makes you feel a certain way. Knowing that Tommy plays the same exact model when he's on stage with Kiss. Now, oh well, he's selling the instrument. Of course, he's going to play it. Right. Nobody has to do anything. No one pointing a gun to Tommy's head and saying, "You play this instrument."
Wait. So pause. Yeah, pause for a second. Right. Yeah. You mentioned before seeing the video of Tommy moving out of his house. Yeah. Does it look like he has to sell another guitar to get his dinner on his table tonight? I don't think so, right?
Absolutely not. I was actually quite surprised when I saw this. I was like, "Damn, that's."
Yeah. Look, the man's done. The man's done well for himself, right?
Yeah, good for him.
Good for him. Well deserved. But you know, look back to that guitar, right? You bought that this year, and to your point, when you hold it up, when you show it to me, when you send me pictures of it, I'm like, that's a damn good looking guitar. So that was a fine purchase you made for the year 2020, right?
And all my guitar player friends who come here they marvel when they see it, and then they say, "How much does it cost?"
Yep.
And I said $850. They're like, "Wow."
Right.
To the point where they were like, "Maybe I'm going to get one," you know. So I don't know if they will, but it's still the fact that it makes them think about buying especially an Epiphone and not a Gibson. Obviously, Epiphone is doing the right thing, or Gibson's doing the right thing.
Right. So you know what? As we're chatting here, I'm thinking when people watch this back, they're going to be jealous of you this year, right? Recording with Joel Hoekstra and Eric Levy and Matt Starr, new instruments like that. Right? So you know, not too bad, buddy. Not too bad of a year for you.
Yeah, they're going to be jealous, but sometimes I go, "What did you say?" Oh, that's right. Nobody's here to talk to me. So at that point,
well, you know, but maybe 2021 we'll get a new T-shirt.
It's so funny you say that because I have, you know, working from home now. When I meet with my team meeting, I got one guy who, as soon as he sees me, he rolls his eyes and goes, "Oh, this damn black T-shirt again." You know? So now, because so many people have made, you know, statements about it, now it's like made me want to like not change it even more.
That's right. Did you sleep in it? Do you sleep in it?
No.
Okay.
No. And I do wash it.
And you do wash it. Okay.
I do have many. Yeah.
And you have many. So you're like Paul Stanley, right? Paul Stanley is always notorious for going through like one shirt, and he has like 20 of them in his closet, and he'll wear the same shirt like So that yours is just a black T-shirt.
I'm like Paul Stanley without the style.
Very funny.
Without the style, and Yeah.
Oh man! So just going back to the albums released this year, right? So we were talking before AC/DC, Ozzy, Paul McCartney, right? I know, like, it's amazing when I started to think about it. Bon Jovi put out an album this year. Marilyn Manson put out an album. Stone Temple Pilots put out an album this year. You know, it's not our cup of tea necessarily, but even I noticed Taylor Swift put out an album, sold 4 million copies, right? So there's still a bunch of music coming out this year that I think flew under the radar because people weren't touring. But I thought this was interesting when I'm thinking about it. I'm like, so all these artists put out new albums, and some of them, like Taylor Swift, sold very well, right? On the flip side, an album I was looking forward to, which was a new Weezer album that was supposed to be, like, oddly enough, in the vein of Van Halen, right? They called it Van Weezer, right? So kind of ironic with Eddie's passing, and we'll talk about that a little bit, right? But they ended up postponing releasing the album, and they're not releasing it for another year. So your opinion, do you think artists should have continued to release product throughout the year like some did, or do you think some should have held it back the way Weezer did?
Well, what was Weezer? What was Weezer's reason for holding it back?
Because,
almost said Wheezy.
Well, you know, George and Wheezy, that's okay. They were supposed to be on tour this summer to support the album. The tour was postponed, so I think they felt, hey, the tour is postponed, which helps promote the album. Let's hold off the album for the time being as well. And I get that logic, right? Because, you know, it used to be that you put out an album that would help support a tour. Now I feel like it's the other way around in the last decade. It's like you tour to support an album, right? Hoping people buy it. So, you know, I understand the logic, but, you know, with all of us sitting at home, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I wish that album still came out. And I see so many other artists putting their albums out, and I'm like, maybe that was the way to do it. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, now that Rivers Cuomo's released his, 2,800 demos?
Yes. $81 for 2,500 demos.
Yeah, 2,500.
No, it was maybe 2,800. I don't know. Just under 3,000 demos for $81. Hello.
My point being, he had enough material that he could have put that album out and probably done another, however many. It's just, I'm super curious to. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of demos, Yeah. But getting back to your original question to me, I don't blame the artists for doing this because I mean we don't know how much money Weezer makes. Right. We have no idea, right? But maybe their feeling is when we finally can get back out there, we want to have a product to help. Although my feeling is that people are going to be like salivating for you and I to go back out on tour. Maybe that's an example. Yeah. Exactly.
People, you could Google that. You're never going to find it. Sorry.
Never going to find it. Yeah. Yeah. People are going to be Shazamming that.
That's right.
He said barf up a tongue? What did he say?
It's lung. Yeah. Barf up a lung. And look, maybe one day we'll grace people with some of those.
Yeah, a lot of people have been waiting and asking. But...
1979. Anyway.
Well, you must be really in a good mood.
I'm always in a good. I'm giving little tidbits away, right?
Yeah. But I think it's cool. It gives you know what? At least it gives the fan base something to look forward to. Some in the new year. And listen, it's the band's choice to do it. And the fact of the matter is, it will come out. So, but the same could be said about. And I know this again mostly. If not all a music podcast, but even with movies, there were a ton of movies that came out. I know that the Wonder Woman movie just came out, right?
Yep.
I know you had posted about that.
Yeah.
So
but I like you had an opinion about the movie and you hadn't even watched it yet.
So for those who didn't see, Mike's post. So basically, what I had said, he had said, I saw the movie. I didn't really think it was that good. Whatever you said,
average to below average, yeah.
Right. And I think my comment was like cheap or just my usual CHP.
Right.
And you're like, did you actually watch the movie? And I said something to the point, well, if it doesn't have like strings holding the guy or the woman flying, I don't want to see it because me, an old school guy. I made a comment recently about how I love the original Superman from the 70s, the late 70s. But my feeling about Hollywood and music to an extent because we've had conversation where I feel like music's overblown, the production's overblown. Like how many times we're going to see crashing explosions, building. I remember watching one Spider-Man movie, and or was Transformers or something, and I literally like had a headache at the end of it. I'm like, it was like the last hour. It was like a battering ram against my head. Like, I just like the simplicity of like the way the movies were done before.
Well, I'll say this, buddy. You may enjoy, if you have HBO Max and you can stream it, you may enjoy, especially the first half. The movie's based out of 1984. And they do like a whole.
Which actually, I was like, okay, my era, I like that.
And the whole like first 45 minutes, they're in like a shopping mall. It's got a very 80s retro vibe. One of the characters is trying on all different clothes, and it's all different like styles from the 80s. Who's wearing leg warmers? You might get a little bit of enjoyment out of that first 45 minutes. And I'll say this: it's not explosions and this and that. It actually, in some ways, and I know we're way off topic of music right now, but it's this year, so we could talk about anything that came out in 2010. It's the year review, exactly.
Yeah.
So. It did have a little bit of a feeling of like a Superman 2, if you will, if you remember that with Christopher Reeve, where it's not all these explosions. It's more like some of the story of Diana, who's Wonder Woman, and it's not all battle scenes and explosions and all of that. So I just think the story was a little bit all over the place. That was the problem that I had with it more than anything. But you're home, and you can get it for free. It's only available in another 28 days, so for free.
Yeah.
You might want to.
Now that you've kind of sold it to me, even though I'm going into it knowing that a lot of people don't like it, but I am one to raise my hand. I like crap. Any old crappy movie. I'll listen to a Rex Smith record and enjoy it. For whatever the reasons are. A lot of it, it's like the retro feel of something. But
right. Well, I'll say this: the Wonder Woman 2017 movie was miles better than this, much better. But you might enjoy the retro feel of this a little bit, so you never know. And it's funny, so since we're off the topic of music for 30 seconds, right? As I sit down here, I have all different things all around me, right? So I'm going to just show off one or two of the things that I actually purchased during this year. That has nothing to do with music, other than the movie has a great soundtrack, and we love the movie anyway. But I was actually, very happy to acquire this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nice. I think it's like 14 by 17 Harrison Ford signed photo. So
does that actually say Harrison Ford or Han Solo?
Oh, it says.
I know. I mean, it looks so short that it looks like it would say more like.
It's actually a nice size autograph. I don't know here if you could see. It's it's a nice. I mean, here look, you can see my hand. It's like the size of the palm of my hand. I'm not about to take it out, but it's actually a picture of him signing the exact photo in the back over here. So I was I'll say thoroughly thrilled about that one. So,
and you had at one point in time, did you have a Harrison Ford?
I did, and I sold it a few years ago to buy a Paul Stanley guitar on one of the cruises. But this came along, and the price was right, and I said that's it. I'm making the purchase. So
well, I think year 2020 has also been a lot for you, the year of regret, and trying to go back and find some of the things that you sold, some of that Kiss stuff. Because I remember I would talk to you, and you were really smart about it. You would say like, well, I want to have this experience, and I know $4,000 for this experience is a lot of money.
Right.
I got a lot of stuff that I don't really care about anymore.
Right.
And some of the stuff you probably still don't, but some of the stuff like you've been searching for this mirror.
Yes.
From a childhood, and you're trying to track that down. And then recently there's the Rock and Roll Over poster,
which is still stuck in the mail now for 3.5 weeks. I'm like, God damn! Every day I'm looking for it.
Me too. I keep looking. I keep getting an updated tracking, but it seems like it's going in the same. So, departed Staten Island, arrived at Staten Island. I'm like, how is it arriving and departing? Is there more than one Staten Island?
Apparently there is.
I ordered something, I think, on December 1st, and I'm still waiting for it. It's been and I know the postal system got hit, tremendously hard this year, but. So I hope you finally get that. At least that's one thing. What is that? One down, hopefully, and one to go. The Kiss mirror.
Yeah, the Kiss mirror is. I've been searching actually all year for that. I know it was in Australia.
And this would be an opportunity for you to superimpose it, because
you're
hoping that somebody sees it.
Good point, buddy.
And hopefully you could you could have Peaches and Herb sing Reunited and it feels so good.
That's right.
For you.
Yeah, for those who don't know what the hell we're talking about right now, I actually sold a mirror that I had from my childhood from the time I was like 7 or 8. I sold it 5 years ago. And last I knew it was in Australia, the exact mirror that I had. Now I've reacquired one that looks identical to the one I have as a kid. So I'm willing to trade that one that looks identical, plus more, be it money, product, whatever it is.
One of those guitars on the wall.
Let's not get too crazy. That purple blue guitar that we showed before, though, is candidate. So that is one of the things I did search this year, high and low, and I know that mirror was last in Australia, but yeah, I'm not giving up hope. Every time I post it, somebody's like, I was hoping when you posted this that it was because you found it, not that you're still looking for it. I'm like, nope, I'm still looking. But
I know the way you are, and I know you're very persistent. I get the feeling you will find it, someday.
Perhaps 2021 will be the year.
And for those of people will say, well, how do you know which one yours? It has a little scratch in the K.
Yes.
So you know exactly that's yours.
Yes, exactly. Which is how I knew the Rock and Roll Over poster that I'm waiting to get back. I knew that my poster was damaged near the K in the Kiss logo. There was another scratch and rip near the S, and this one was identical. So either somebody damaged theirs to look exactly like mine as a kid. Doubtful.
As I called you recently, like the Quincy, you're like forensics. You bring out your forensics kit. For those people who don't know what Quincy is, it was a popular mid-'70s TV show starring Jack Klugman. Google it. It was an awesome show. I love it. But yeah.
Well, it's funny that you're saying that with the forensics. So, and then this kind of dovetails into another topic to talk about, right? So we were talking about you watching Wonder Woman, and you could stream that for free. But something that's not free that's coming up is the New Year's Eve Kiss stream, right? So,
right.
Any thoughts? So I'll be honest, I have not made the purchase yet. It's whatever today's December 27th. I know I'm making the purchase. I know I'm making
the... The acting job is terrible.
Oh, man. So, in fact, late yesterday, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, and actually Tommy and Eric also posted pictures that they've arrived in Dubai. So, what are your thoughts on the whole New Year's Eve?
It looked like it was a promo video that was done, too. I saw this.
Oh, really? I missed that. Yesterday.
Yeah. It looked like, I don't know if Kiss put it out, but it seemed like Kiss put it out of them, going through the airport, walking, seeing the tour of Dubai, whatever they were doing, It's kind of, my thought of it is, it seems to me it's a no-brainer. I mean, even if you've seen them recently on this last tour or whatever, even if they're most likely going to do the same set list that they've been doing.
So I'll pause you there. So you mentioned forensics, right?
Yeah.
So I did a forensics on the set list that was on the floor. And it looks like it lines up exactly. The length of each of the song titles line up exactly to what they were doing in March when we saw them on those, or February when we saw them on those couple of shows. 21 songs. And Detroit Rock City, followed by Shout It Out Loud, which is slightly shorter, followed by Deuce, which is even shorter, followed by Say Yeah, which is slightly longer. So I did the forensics, so it looks like the same.
Nobody else would do this in the world. None. Nobody else.
No. So sorry, you mentioned forensics. You mentioned forensics and streaming. So I was like, I got to talk about the Kiss New Year's Eve show.
Yeah, right.
So please continue.
Yeah, so I was going to say, for $40, which is probably cheaper than what's most pay-per-view events now these days. I mean, I don't watch it, but I think they're in like $60 or $70 or more, like if you're watching like a boxing match or something. So listen, you New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, I should say, $40, seeing your favorite band or one of your favorite bands, it just seems like it's a no-brainer. I'm sure the production's going to be really cool. It's probably going to be presented in a different way than you've ever seen Kiss being presented concert-wise. I mean, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, the last release concert was the Vegas, that was commercially released, right? So I saw pictures of them building the stage and how the whole thing is going to be. So I'm sure it's going to be an awesome production. Sounds like a no-brainer to me.
No, I'm sure. Like I said, I haven't made the purchase yet. I think I'm like secretly hoping there's like some kind of discounts at the last minute or whatever, because I know I'm buying it, right? So I'm just being cheap right now, and I guess Gene doesn't need my money a month ahead of time. But I was asked as recently as last night, "Oh, you didn't buy it? What are you waiting for?" I said, "I don't know. Because I know I'm going to be sitting on my couch at 12 noon, New Year's Eve, and I'm going to be sitting there watching it. And I'm going to be chatting about it online. I'm going to be calling or talking to you, whatever it is, right? So I should just freaking stop chatting right now, just go upstairs and make the purchase.
Exactly, because I know what you're going to do. You're gonna say to me, maybe not New Year's Day, but the day after. Or knowing you might want to do New Year's Day because you want to get it out there as soon as possible. I mean, like, we should talk about blah, 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 because what do we think about it? So,
Right. Yep. I'm sure we'll do a chat. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They said, I think recently Doc McGee did an interview, and he said that there was like some surprises in store for the thing. I don't know what that means. People are speculating, Ace Frehley's going to be there, or Peter Criss. Nah, not happening. Not happening. If Ace Frehley or Peter Criss was going to be there, they'd be milking that right now because everybody under the sun would be buying it then, right? So you don't want to be like, damn, if I would have known Ace was going to be there, I would have bought it. Now that Kiss lost my money. That's not the approach the Kiss is going to take with this. So I'm kind of curious what the surprise is going to be. If I've done the forensics right and the set list looks the same, and it's funny, just a funny story about that. When I did the forensics, there was only one song I wasn't sure which one it was. And it's the second to last one. And Kiss has gone back and forth in the last year doing Do You Love Me or Crazy Crazy Nights. And I'm looking at the length. I'm like, that could kind of go either way. I'm really not sure. And then they posted like a 10-second audio clip of them in rehearsal. And they were rehearsing Do You Love Me? And I was like, all right, well, that answers that question for me. So it's kind of funny. There was, I think 10 seconds of Do You Love Me and like 10, 20 seconds of Rock and Roll All Night. And that was it. And I was like, it's pretty ironic that was one of the songs they chose to do. But I said this, how funny would it be if they know that there's dopes like me out there that's going to do that? And all of a sudden they open up the show and they're doing like, I don't know, Creatures of the Night, right? Like, what the hell? That's not what was on that piece of paper. So I doubt it, but it would be pretty funny if they did that. Yeah.
And you'd be fired as Kiss forensics expert.
Exactly. And I'm sure that's not going to be the case, but it's just kind of interesting if they did do something like that,
Yeah.
So sticking with the Kiss stuff for a moment here, right? So interestingly, this year, once the pandemic started, we mentioned before Paul Stanley doing some videos, and nobody else from the band did. But I remember you were really excited in the summer when this guy did a video singing one of his songs from his solo album. And right, Peter Criss doing the "Don't You Let Me Down" video, right? So this year we've seen a slight, reemergence of Peter Criss, if you will, right? He did that video, I think it was like in June or July, because I remember you were at my house and we were in the pool during the summer, kind of talking about it. So it was nice warm weather. So it was sometime July, I'll say. And now more recently, he's drumming on Richie Scarlett's new song. So we've seen more of Peter Criss in the last 6 months from a music side than we probably have in the last 15 years, which is pretty wild. Yeah.
And especially with the video that his wife put together for his 75th birthday. Which, if you haven't seen that, it's pretty incredible. And it was nice to see. I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm going to spoil it. No, I'm not going to spoil it.
No, you can spoil it. Nah. If people haven't watched it by now, spoil it.
Well, at the last three guys to wish him a happy birthday was Gene, Paul, and Ace. So, again, as we've always said, we're tired of the fucking bickering and the bullshit. And he said that in 1976 he did that. Who cares?
Yep.
Who cares now? I don't care anymore. I don't want to hear the stories.
Right. Yep.
Agreed. I just want to see at the end of the road or whatever the hell they're calling this thing that the band is harmonious.
Yep. Agreed.
It's been nice to see over the last how many years. Gene worked with Ace on a couple of tunes. Paul sang on one of on the Origins one. That's more of the stuff I want to see.
Agreed.
And so it would be really cool because I just thought of it. Right now. With Paul doing his Soul Station thing, I could see like Peter Criss maybe doing like a guest vocal thing or some sort of like duet or something with them, because that would be something probably in Peter's wheelhouse that he would like to do, that R&B stuff. And And I think wasn't that supposed to come out this year? His Soul Station
I
record or
I think
whatever?
he just announced that it's coming out in March. He's finished
Okay.
recording it. I think that's all
Yeah.
done. So that's, if we were talking about what Paul Stanley did in 2020, apparently he finished recording his Soul Station album. But
Yeah.
I think it's coming out in March, and the fact that we haven't heard anything with Peter Criss's involvement probably means he's not on it. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
To me, that's right in Peter's wheelhouse. It would be great to see him do that, but I'm certainly
Yeah.
not holding my breath waiting for something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the fact that Paul participated, we all know how Paul is, when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to things,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it opens a door, and that's all
Right.
we can hope for at this point,
Right.
that
Right.
it just opens a door.
Right.
So,
Well, like you said, Peter Criss just turned 75. His wife did that video. So to me, any little bits that we get of Peter now, right? The Richie Scarlett thing, the Don't You Let... I wish he did, even if he just did more things like when he sang Don't You Let Me Down in his living
Yeah.
room, right?
Yeah,
Let
yeah.
him do By Myself, or, some of the other songs on his solo albums. I think that'd
Yeah.
be cool just to see him do little things like that. So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe.
absolutely.
Maybe.
Absolutely.
In 2020, if you were talking about drummers, if you remember the beginning of the year, there was that whole Joey Kramer debacle with Aerosmith, right?
Oh, yeah.
You remember
Yeah,
we kind of spoke about
oh, my
that.
God. Such a long time ago. Wow.
Yeah. As I
Yeah.
was thinking back to the end, I'm like, yeah, that was like in February. I think it was right around the time of the Grammys, right? Where Joey Kramer
Yeah.
wasn't allowed to perform with them. Now, since then, he's supposedly now back with the band. In fact, I think he performed with them at something else in March before the whole pandemic hit. But that's kind of crazy to me to think about that was even during this year. And that was just a whole crazy thing just to begin with. The guy's been in the band for 40 years and they're being acknowledged for a lifetime achievement type thing. And he wasn't allowed to play. I get he's had injuries and he hasn't been well, but that's kind of what a wacky start to a wacky year,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Well, anybody, I may have mentioned it at the time. I don't remember when we did that podcast. If you go back and you watch a great documentary, Aerosmith, The Making of Pump,
Mm-hmm.
and they all talk about the way Steven Tyler is, and Steven Tyler, man, he wants it and he wants it his way, and he's, and Steven can play a bit of drums. He can play a bit of keyboards. He can play, so he's got, he's a multi-instrument, so he hears it in his head.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the feeling that maybe if he thinks something's not up to snuff for whatever the reason is, business is business. Doesn't matter how long you've been in the band. If you're not cutting it, we're still putting ourselves out there. We don't want to. I don't think they would ever embarrass himself by something he plays. But who the heck knows what was going on?
Right.
We just don't know. We were not behind the doors of those rehearsals to hear what he wasn't able to. And again, I could just say this to defend drummers. Drums are a very physical instrument, and as you get older, your body does not participate like it did when you were 20s and 30s.
Absolutely.
It's a harder thing to do. So
Absolutely.
I'm sure there was some validity behind what was going on, but I'm just glad that they were able to work whatever out since then.
Yep, absolutely. Now, I'm glad you mentioned the D word because you brought it up before and it triggered a thought in my mind. The D word being documentary, right? So we were talking about HBO Max before. Have you seen the Bee Gees documentary yet?
Oh, of course I did.
Okay, how was it? Because that's on my list of things to watch during this holiday break right now, and I've only heard good things about it. But what do you think of it?
So I'll make no. It's never been any secret that I love the Bee Gees. One of the the greatest songwriting. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
We have you recorded in that too.
Yes, we do.
Did we release something?
That's right.
People are gonna be like, "What is all this material they're holding back?"
Exactly.
What was I saying? Oh, the greatest songwriting teams ever. One of the great vocalists ever, to record. It's very interesting how, coming out of the 60s, going into the 70s, how they had to kind of rebrand themselves or reinvent themselves. And they kind of like fell into, and I don't want to give away the story, but it's just it's an amazing story. And what was really more amazing to me was when I sat down, and this is what I typically do, I was watching it and I had the guitar or bass in my hand. I was seeing what the chord changes were.
Okay.
And I'm like, you know what? They're using all your basic formulas for songwriting, chord progression, G, C, D, B, But what makes it so outstanding is the lyrics and the melodies and their harmonies together. And it was pretty interesting how the brothers, mostly Robin and Barry, were very competitive, like who was going to sing lead on what particular song. Now, Barry was really the one that was known as being the guy, although on a lot of like I Started a Joke and some of the other tunes, Robin was the lead singer on it. But it's I highly recommend it for any music fan, even if you weren't a big fan of the disco era and all that stuff. If you're a music lover, music fan, and you want to just hear a story about great songwriting and some unfortunate, tragic, stuff that came across their path.
Right.
It's a very worthwhile to watch.
And I'm looking forward to watching because, like you just said, I mean, people think of the Bee Gees as that disco artist in the late '70s, but they'd been around for 10 years at that point, maybe even a little bit more than 10 years. I mean, they had a bunch of hits. They had a bunch of hits before that as well. So
it's funny. They had 2 volumes of greatest hits before they even had Saturday Night Fever come out.
Right, which is amazing.
Think about that.
That's amazing.
Think about that. And then they wrote countless number of hits for other artists.
Yep.
Mostly when radio stations didn't want to play them because they got so biased against the whole. They looked at them as the poster child for the disco era. Error, as they looked at it.
Right, error.
But I'll never forget. I'll never forget with the great behind the musics that came out in the '90s, the VH1,
the VH1 stuff.
And I'll never forget this. That there was one on disco on that, and there was a part where they had Alice Cooper on saying, I secretly used to listen in my car to Saturday Night Fever because it was tremendous, but I would never let anybody know that I was listening to disco. But this was Alice Cooper saying, like, listening to like Staying Alive and Night Fever. You know what I mean? Think about that.
Right, absolutely.
Around the neck and out of the, you know what I mean? Listening to Night Fever.
Right. So you definitely think the documentary is worth the view?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'll make sure I get that done before 2020 is a wrap, right? So I think one other big thing I wanted to talk about when we look back at 2020 is always the case, right? But unfortunately this year we did have a number of well-known musicians pass away, right? I think none other obviously than Eddie Van Halen, right? Which was, I think it was October 6th that he passed away. Earlier in the year in the Kiss camp, we had Bob Kulick pass away, which was late May. The year started, Neil Peart passed away, right? It was the beginning of January. That was literally like the first week of January, he passed away. But, Frankie Banali passed away. Lee Kerslake passed away. More recently, Leslie West passed away, right? So it just seems like, unfortunately, it was a loss of a lot of musicians this year. Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, and not to be a Debbie Down or whatever, as we start getting older, this is unfortunately going to be. Now, Eddie was much younger than he should have died, and a lot of these people were Bob and whatever, But, those are the podcasts that we hate to do, But talking about Eddie Van Halen, I recently watched. I think I'll make sure I get this right. The guitar player is it Jason Becker? Is that his name?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I think it's Jason Becker, and excuse me if I got this wrong. But anyway, in the early '90s, he was actually the guitar player who I believe replaced Steve Vai in Whitesnake.
Okay.
I think it's Jason Becker. Anyways, he wound up getting, I think it was maybe ALS, like Lou Gehrig's disease or something like that.
Okay.
And basically, he can't talk. He can't do it. He's still alive. Thank you. But he released about a week ago footage from 1995 of Eddie Van Halen visiting him at his home.
Okay.
Giving him a guitar, spending time with him, hugging him, kissing him. And he was basically put this out. He never put it out. His home video saying, you know who the real Eddie Van Halen was? This is a guy who came to my house, gave me unbelievable amount of warmth and love. And it's just, you watch this, just like if you watched the recent video that Wolfgang put out up all the home footage. But I highly recommend people just kind of look that up. And again, I hope I got the right guitar player.
Yeah. No, I missed that. I didn't see that. So I'll have to go search that out myself. Yeah, I didn't see that.
And it's actually a great story because Jason still writes and records music through other people.
Okay.
And his father developed this way of communicating where he moves his eyes to certain letters, and that's how he speaks. It's like incredible that his father came up with this. This was something that was there for his son to use.
Sure.
He actually came up with this. And I just, again, I hope I got the right guitar player. You should check that out.
Yeah, I'll definitely. I know I'll look for it. I have actually felt bad in some ways for Wolfgang. After first off, he's dealing with the passing of his father, right? And he's dealing with it in the public eye, right? Because everybody knew who Eddie Van Halen was, right? And even Wolfgang is a known person, having toured with Van Halen and putting out his new solo album himself. And like you said, he put out the video and the song, which was great. But I've seen a number of Van Halen fans, hey, Wolfgang, you should be playing guitar and rebooting Van Halen and bringing Sammy. And I'm like, what? That's freaking nuts to me. Like, I feel bad. And to me, the kid, and I'm saying the kid, he's 30 years old probably at this point, but he's a kid to me, right? But he's handled all of this really well, I feel. But I feel for him because, we did a chat right after Eddie's passing. And, I remember saying it to me, there's nobody that I could think of that says they don't like some era of Van Halen. If you like hard rock music, you like the Sammy days, you like the Dave days, right? So everybody has had something to say. And this kid has got it, I feel like, from all angles and has handled it to me as well as could be expected because it's got to be tough. His father, like you said, was young and such a public figure. And, that's one of the things. And I think back to 2020, one of the things I'll always remember is Eddie Van Halen passing, but also the way his son handled it and probably 1,000 times better than I ever would in that situation. It's sad. It really is. Yeah.
And people they'll never know what it's like. Some people say, well, he has the benefit of being Eddie Van Halen's son and, he could put something out and it's much easier for him because he has the resources. Yeah. You know what it's like to be in the shadow of an Eddie Van Halen or any other, like a Sean Lennon?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to say. Ask John Lennon's son. Ask Bob Dylan's son. It's not as easy as you think.
Yeah. I mean, they had some success. They both, Julian Lennon in the 80s, and Jacob Dylan with the Wallflowers.
Yeah.
But that's not easy. What happened after those records? Where did they go? You know what I mean? It's like having that sustainability just because you have that name doesn't always,
Agreed.
So.
Yep. Yeah. And, again, so to me, you think about it, Eddie Van Halen, Neil Peart in the same year, right? I mean, you arguably can make a case for one of the top three, if not biggest guitars of the last 30, 40 years, and one of the top three, if not the biggest drummers from the last 30, 40 years in the same year. Kind of one at the beginning of the year, one closer to the end of the year. It's sad to kind of think back and think about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But
go ahead.
No, I don't know if you were going to say the same thing. We always say the music will always be there forever, and just go and listen to what they, put out, all those great records, and celebrate these artists, human beings, however you want to say.
Yep, absolutely.
Mothers, fathers, whatever. It's.
And I'll say this, it's sad that Bob Kulick passed away, and as Kiss fans, that's the one that maybe hit closest to home for Kiss fans. But I love what Bruce has done every week, him and his wife, Lisa, every Tuesday posting funny pictures of Bob and kind of keeping Bob's memory alive, which I think has been kind of inspirational to me in some ways. Everybody knows Bob and Bruce had a little bit of a rift the last year and a half, but Bruce has clearly put that aside. And in 2020, every Tuesday, it's Bob Hat Tuesday. And I look forward to it. The pictures are hilarious. And I don't want to call it a highlight of 2020 because it's centered around somebody passing away. But it's been something that every week when I see the pictures, I get a laugh out of it. And I remember that even in something bad, you could still see something good. And I love those posts every week that him and his wife do.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's not the easiest thing to do. People hold grudges for life sometimes. And, he could easily have done that, Yep. But as I always tell people, it's like, you don't want to wait for something to happen, unfortunate, to have a regret not to do something. So do it while you can.
Yep.
And that's what I always say, So, yeah, it's really nice to see. And like to what you said too, it's fun to see these pictures that we never see before,
Exactly.
And not even know that he had this thing,
Right. You always put goofy hats on his head for some reason. It's hilarious. I see Bob in a different light now because of these pictures.
Not even hats, objects, a lampshade or a pan or something like that. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be a hat. You're right.
They called it a hat, but
No, you're right. You're 100% right. It's just something that's resting on the top of his head. And I look at Bob in a different light now with these pictures. I see a side of him and a goofy side of him that quite honestly I never knew existed before this. So to me that's I think it's a cool thing that Bruce and Lisa have done.
Well, same thing with Eddie is what I was saying too.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard things about Eddie. Oh, he drank too much. Oh, he did whatever. But at his core, he's obviously a tremendous human being, and as someone who really cared and loved people. You know what I mean? And so everybody has their demons. And some people are a demon. So
I see what you did there.
But it's good to start seeing some of this stuff. If there's any sort of positivity when somebody goes, is when people put out some footage or something where it says, "I want you to see my dad or my friend or whoever, my brother or my sister in this way too."
Right.
Don't just remember him that way.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, I'll share this story that I read online. Right. So everybody knows who Ryan Spencer Cook is now in the Ace Frehley band and previously the Gene Simmons band. And when Eddie passed, I don't know if you saw this, Ryan shared a story of a personal experience he had with Eddie. Did you see this online?
No.
Okay.
No.
So this story, he said, happened about 8 or 10 years ago. Whatever the number of years is insignificant. It was before he had played with Ace and before he played with Gene. So in essence, he was a relatively speaking unknown at this point, right?
Right.
And he's at a gas station, California, pumping gas, and lo and behold, who pulls up alongside of him in the gas station? Eddie Van Halen. Right. And I want to say this might have been like the late 90s after Gary Chacon left. And, Ryan's like, what do I do? That's Eddie Van Halen. What do I do? So he goes over and introduces himself and says, "Hey, I'm a singer, whatever." Eddie invites him back to his house. Right there on the spot.
Really?
Yes. Invites him back to the house. And Ryan has no reason. Ryan was clear. He's like, "I don't want to pretend that we're friends. I don't want to pretend this or that." He's like, he heard I was a singer. And he was like, "Come on over. Come to my house. Let me hear what you have." He goes, and all of a sudden, a half hour after pumping gas in a gas station, he's sitting in Eddie Van Halen's living room. Eddie Van Halen gives him his phone number. And like he says, Eddie ultimately ended up passing. It's not something he was looking for. But that to me, a total, Eddie freaking Van Halen. And a total stranger, for all intents and purposes, comes up to you in a gas station, tells you that they're a singer, and you invite him back to your house? That's freaking nuts. Right. That's nuts. Anytime I see a celebrity now, I'm going to start saying I'm a singer also, because you never know.
I was thinking that's where I was going with this. Imagine the 90s after Gary Chacon, you drove up. And
exactly. With the hood coming down from the inside. But to me, that says a lot about who Eddie Van Halen was as a person, because, it's not like a Sammy Hagar type person who pulled up alongside and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know who this is." You know what? You're thinking something else.
Yeah, I'm just thinking a story. I'm sorry of you driving the Taurus with the mirror.
The mirror gets ripped off. Oh, man.
Exactly. The 30 just now, because I'm letting people go, what they talk about. What's the 30-second version of that story?
All right, so I'll tie it into music. You ready? Okay. So I was in Cleveland. I had gone to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You see the music connection? This is like in the late 90s. And I'm sitting at a light, waiting for the light to turn green. And it's like a 3-lane road that I'm sitting at. Enjoyed my day at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was new. I wish they did more. There was no Kiss. But, I'm still in the car, nice and relaxed. A truck comes alongside my rented car. It wasn't my Ford Taurus. It was a rented car. And rips off the driver's side mirror, which is now dangling off to the side. Totally rips off my driver's side mirror. And I'm sitting in the car stunned. I'm in my late 20s or whatever. Probably one of the first or second times I'd ever rented a car in my life. And I'm like, uh-oh, now what? This isn't my car. And it's got no driver's side mirror anymore. So that's what you're referring to. So yeah, you see, there is a music connection.
I should have known.
That's right. There's always a music connection of some sort. Although, you mentioned before the price of the stream being $39 and up, right? And I almost said at the time, it's the price of a hose.
Plus tax.
Plus tax. The hose plus tax. Now, again, this is another one that people are like, what the hell are they talking about? So we're really off the beat. And there's really not a music connection to this one, but I just wanted to bring it up because when you said $39, of course, I thought hose, right? So now we're really going into the depths of our mind here, right? So anybody who knows Vincent and I know that I worked in like a variety type store in the 80s into the early 90s, and they sold garden hoses at the time for the summer. And Vincent always thought it was hilarious that the garden hose was $35. And we've now actually made the hose into a currency that you and I refer to, right? We've got the yen, we got the euro, we got the British pound, we got the dollar, we got the hose. So if something's $70, Vincent and I will say, that costs 2 hoses. And so everything goes back to the price of a hose for us. Yeah. So when you said the Kiss thing was $39, I almost blurted out, that's the price of a hose.
Plus tax.
Plus tax. All right. So now we'll know who really watches these in depth, because in the future, if there's like the new Ace Frehley album, right, and it's $35, we won't say it's $35. We'll say it cost a hose. And we'll see actually who knows what the hell we're talking about.
And I was going to say, don't start saying future, because that'll go into a whole
Oh, God, now we're getting to a whole nother thing. But, I guess one last thing also for me to talk about, which has nothing to do with hoses or car mirrors or anything like that. So another nice thing in 2020 that I did is I actually purchased a few books, right? So, there's a couple of Kiss-related books I'll start off with, right, since we are talking music, right? So anybody who hasn't picked these up, we've got the Kiss Phantoms. Can you see that right now?
Pull it back a little bit. Pull it back a little.
Pull it back, okay.
Better.
Kiss Phantoms. I had Ron Albanese on my show. It's a book all about the Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park movie. Nice book. Came out this year. It's a quick read, 150 pages. Nice quick read. This one is no longer, I think it's sold out, but this is guy, I think Allen's his name, from Japan, puts out these magazines. One of them was actually official. This one is not. It's the 5th anniversary limited edition printing. But if you can find this, guys, this came out this year, but it's everything that Kiss ever did in Japan. Really beautiful pictures, never released before. Came out this year. Quality product. I highly recommend it. Going with music, but non-Kiss, I got the Rob Halford book. And of course, knowing me, I have to get the autographed copy, of course.
There's only one way for you to buy anything.
That is true. So I actually have not read this yet, but everything I've read so far about it says that it's a really good book. I think I'm going to sit down with this after I watch the Bee Gees documentary. This is next up on the list. And I showed the Harrison Ford thing before, but I also have on my list the IMC3PO. I think this came out in 2019, but I just purchased this a few months ago. So this will be some more reading. But these are some of the books I purchased. Most of them, of course, music related. But those are some of my other 2020 purchases that I made this year. Because I do like to read a nice, good book. And I enjoy those kind of books. And I drive my family crazy because then I quote from them afterwards. And they're like, shut up with the friggin' books. Shut up. So I can't wait to sink my teeth into those and start quoting some of them.
Well, I don't have a product to show you because I did buy the Kindle version of it, and I actually just did it last night. Speaking of Van Halen or Eddie Van Halen, I bought the Ted Templeman book.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that came out this year.
Did you read that one already?
No, I have not. I read the Van Halen Rising that came out about 7 years ago, which was excellent. So I got to get this one. Have you started reading it yet?
No, I literally purchased it last night.
Okay. You could have held up your Kindle and
I could have, yeah.
I purchased. It's on this Kindle over here. Oh man!
What is this? Hold on. Flaming Youth.
Oh, that's right. You finally this year you got the 45.
No, I actually had it for years.
You opened it. You finally opened it.
Well, as the story goes, my brother got it for Christmas. We all chipped in and got it for him for Christmas. And I'm sitting here, and it's literally staring. It's right over here next to me.
Yep.
And it's been sitting there for like 7 years, and I'm like, why have I not opened this? Like that whole thing, like mentality. I don't want to unmint it. I don't want to. Again, with the way life is precious, I want to enjoy this thing.
Right.
Open it up. I'm never, you know me, I'm never going to sell it. I might as well. So pretty much like every night I've been making dinner or whatever. I put on a 45. Some of the songs 2 minutes and 51 seconds. I go inside. I got to come back in, flip the record over.
Right.
And it's kind of interesting because like Nothing to Lose was like a B-side like 2 times.
Okay.
And there's another song. What other song was they used more than once as a B-side. So I never knew what the B-sides were. A lot of the songs were.
Right,
so it's kind of really cool. So this is still available. I mean, it's not something I bought this year, but it is still.
But you opened it this year.
I opened it this year. So, thus far, I've listened to this, which again, Kissing Time, Nothing to Lose was the B-side. I guess Strutter was the single, and 100,000 Years was the B-side.
I know Nothing to Lose was the first single actually from the album, so it's interesting that was the B-side. Mm-hmm.
But these were actually reproductions of like if it was Japan or whatever. Mm-hmm. So this is Let Me Go Rock and Roll and Hotter Than Hell.
Yep.
This is Rock and Roll Night with Getaway on the other side. Mm-hmm. Come On and Love Me with Getaway again. This is another thing with Getaway used twice. Rock and Roll All Night live version with, what's the B-side on this one? But it's really cool.
I thought it was Rock and Roll All Night, the studio version.
Live version. Yeah. So this is a really cool Shout Out Loud with Sweet Pain. So this is a really nice collection. It's still available to purchase.
Yeah, and it's like 4.5 hoses, I think it costs roughly.
People like 35 times.
If I got the math right, I think it's like 4.5 hoses roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed one in here, but this is a very worthwhile purchase. The one that I missed in here was that's right. Nothing to Lose with Love from Kiss. Mm-hmm. So.
Right. And you know what? It's kind of a nice way to kind of wrap up this whole 2020 conversation. I'm glad you just went through this, right? We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, right? Mm-hmm. If we were sitting here doing chats in January, February, right, when Neil Peart passed away, and even when Kobe Bryant passed away, that was the big news. And that seemed like that was going to be like the big news of the year, those kind of things. And then March came along and the world changed dramatically compared to what we ever thought, right? You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And in this case, you've had that box set for many of the year at this point, right? And you felt this year, it's the time that I get out and open this and enjoy this, you know? And you don't know that tomorrow what it's going to bring. And to have this thing just sitting on a shelf all wrapped up, well, it looks nice, but you're not getting the enjoyment out of it that you really could and should. And I'm not criticizing. If anybody wants to keep things closed, by all means, keep them closed, right? I'm not criticizing that. But I think that's one of the takeaways for this year is like in your case, you're like, you know what? No, I'm cracking this bad boy open. This is meant to be listened to and enjoy. And, you know, I'm going to because there's no guarantee next year that any of us are even going to be able to do any of this stuff. So let's enjoy it today while we can.
Exactly. And that was my point when I was talking to my brother. And we also had, he was listening to it while I was listening at the same time, even though we were at different places. But it was kind of cool. He's like, oh, I'm up to, you know, You Matter to Me, you know, and he's sending me a video of it because, you know, we think that's a classic tune. And I think I was up to Rock and Roll Night. So we were kind of going back and forth. You know, it's kind of fun. And that's in the spirit of like what we do as music fans, as Kiss fans. We like to share stories and like the shared experience because this has been such a huge part of our lives. You might as well enjoy it and take advantage of all the time you can.
Agreed.
And, you know, to me, it's like what my takeaway was, you know, even the songs that I didn't think as a kid, like A Sweet Pain was one of my favorites. Like I listened to that with a different perspective now. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to even the friggin' Love theme from Kiss. I was listening to them like, and Gene put some nice tasty bass licks in this song. I kind of forgot about it. Like Gene really kind of like, you know, I always thought he was underrated, but there is some, you know, we did our reviews on that song, and I gave it a look. But there is some good stuff in that tune, even though it's not nearly one of my favorite Kiss tunes. You know, absolutely. Yeah. So enjoy what you can while you can. Right.
Because there's no guarantee what tomorrow's going to bring. So everybody, go crack open your albums and listen to them.
Slice them open. Let's go.
That's right. Slice them open. Or you know, like we said before, with all the Ace Frehley variants, then just buy 2 of them. You know, keep one sealed and slice one open.
A lot of people do. I've seen people that will buy like 12.
Right.
I think some of it is like, you know, I don't know what people are thinking, but, you know, I think there's and I don't want to go off on a tangent here. I think way Kiss fans think is we wish when we were younger we would have bought this, you know, we would have bought the Kiss dial and put it and never opened it up because so I think a lot of people think, well, if I buy a lot of these, they're going to be worth some money someday. So I might as well, you know, because this is going to be a rare thing, but it's a totally different mindset now, you know? So I don't know.
But saying that, Kiss put out a bunch of the colored vinyl this year, right? And I know you and I have somewhat checked out. I know you had even maybe more than me originally, a bunch of the colored vinyl. Yeah. But those of them who did purchase, I think it was the Dress to Kill colored vinyl, you're sitting on now a $300 or $400 album, right? So there is still those chances, but that's because production, I think, was like 300 or 400 pieces only.
But it's a fake market the way I look at it, and this could be maybe a podcast for another day. I think, let's just keep it at that, because I think this could be an interesting discussion.
Mm-hmm.
How because you and I have spoken separately of, like, you've made some good points about what is Kiss stuff going to be worth once they're not touring. So let's just keep that for 2021, maybe.
Sneak
podcast.
Preview of what 2021 has in store for you. Right?
Yeah, because I think it's a really good conversation piece.
I agree. And I'll just say this with the colored vinyl. I did check out because it just became too much for me. I don't need to buy Hot in the Shade for the 17th time, Unmasked for the 21st time, right? But the one that I do still say I might have to purchase that came out this year, 2020, is Unmasked. I think they did a really good job with that one. It's like a splattered color on it. It looks really nice to me. I know just recently they did another Love Gun with like multicolors in it. And I hate always seeing them because I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Oh, that looks cool. Don't do it, Mike. Don't do it. And then I went and I bought the Ace Frehley one, right? But I think the Unmasked one is the one that, to me, I'm like, yeah, that looks cool. The problem is, like, you have the two turntables and a microphone right next to you. I don't have a turntable set up anymore right now. So it's, I buy it and then it just sits there unopened like your 45 box set. And I don't get enjoyment out of that. It just sits on the shelf unopened. And
that's what I would yell at you about, because the whole part of, like, taking it out of it's a whole mechanical thing, and then seeing that splatter thing spinning, and then hearing some of your favorite songs, something really. And that being said, I don't have the Love Gun splatter. I don't have the Unmasked. Now, of course, I'm going to be looking on eBay for all these things as soon as we get off the phone.
I think that the Unmasked and the Love Gun are still available. And the Unmasked looks nice, I have to say. The Unmasked does look nice. So
I know my brother's kept up with it, and he's bought. I don't know if he got the Dress to Kill. I didn't realize that's worth like $400. How many did they make?
There was supposed to be a few thousand, and then they had production problems during the pandemic. The rumor is that there's 300. There's no confirmation of that. Maybe 400, right? All I know is a number of people placed orders and never got it because there just wasn't enough. Now, I don't know if they purposely did that to kind of, have people all interested in buying the future ones. Oh, you never know. This could be the one. I tend to believe it's probably legit during the pandemic. They probably just had production problems, but why not produce more then? That's my thing, But yeah, that one is very tough to find. It's going for hundreds of dollars already because.
And the one thing you could probably guarantee with Kiss, there'll be another Dress to Kill variant of some color. Maybe it won't be that one. That's only 300 of them. But Kiss is, what is this? They've already had how many rounds with Love Gun? I don't even know.
I can't even keep track. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's. I don't want to say too many because again, people are buying them, so I'm not criticizing. It's too many for me. It's too many for me to keep up, but. I'm telling you, buddy, I think you'll enjoy the Unmasked one. It's got all the colors from the album cover, splatter version. It's a nice looking.
So now that you say that, where is it available?
Online.
Sam Goody.
Online. You like my answer?
Corvettes.
Online. Yeah. Corvettes. Corvettes.
Through Kiss. Through Kiss.
Yeah, I think you can get it on their website. This shouldn't be hard to find. Last I saw it was, I think, still on their website. So I think the Kiss Alive was sold out. I think they put that out this year on a splatter of some sort.
Yeah.
But you should be able to find Unmasked reasonably cheap, even if it's not on their website. I think it was readily available, so you shouldn't have to pay that much of a premium for that.
Okay.
So
very good.
Well, I think we covered a lot about the year 2020, right? For a year that people say you sat in the house and did nothing. We just covered a boatload of stuff that happened in 2020, right? So, and that to me kind of goes way back to, 18 hours ago when we started this conversation, right? To me, 2020 is what you made out of it. And each of us gone through peaks and valleys, and I understand all of that. But, you still had some amazing things happen for you, your own music. I had some amazing things happen for me with my podcast. We did get some new music from different artists. You and I were fortunate to go see concerts, right? There was these online things this year. There were new albums that were put out there. There's lots of things. So I hope 2021 is better, right? I hope we get to go out to concerts and all of that. I hope we get to see Joey Kramer back with Aerosmith and doing some shows. But take what we can and try to enjoy it, right? That's what we always say. Enjoy what you can.
And just so that we're respectful for those who, struggle, whether it be out of loss, whether it be job or family member or friend, whatever.
Absolutely.
We want to make sure that we're respectful.
Or even just the mental aspect of what's happened this year.
Yes.
I don't want to minimize that. I know people who struggle tremendously with just the mental aspect of it.
Right. So, we're laughing, we're smiling. Those things are not something to be laughing and smiling about. We take that stuff very seriously. And, of course, we want to, say to people, for those who have suffered any kind of loss, we're sorry for that, and
Yes.
we hope that you have a better year ahead. So I just want to make sure we
No, 100%. And
too.
I'm glad you're saying that, because you know me, Betty, as well as anybody. And since March, I basically have barely left my house, right? So I've taken this very serious, and I know that this is very serious. And my wife and my daughter have pre-existing conditions that, make me have to take this serious, even if I wasn't going to, which I would have. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that have been through bad this year. And I know that, and my heart bleeds for those kind of people. And I think you and I are fortunate. We've been able to work from home. We've been able to take advantage of different opportunities, right? But I know that there are people out there that are not as fortunate. And for them, more than anything, more than new album, a concert, or anything else, I hope those people get a better 2021, because everybody deserves happiness and to feel comfortable with life. And fingers crossed that they do get that. So I'm very glad you brought that up.
And I'm hoping in your particular case, you have the year of awesomeness to go with the float of awesomeness.
Yes. Everything's always awesome when I'm on the float of awesomeness, which is what I call my major float that I lay on in my pool. It's the float of awesomeness, right?
Right.
And you know what? I'll even just say this. I purposely chose this shirt to wear today, right? Because I always try to look, and this has Weezer, right? I don't know how much you can see of it, but it's actually like
I didn't see that. I didn't even know that was there. That's cool.
It's a Weezer shirt that looks like the back of Kiss Alive.
Yeah.
And in the poster, instead of having Kiss, it has an AT-AT from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
cool.
Weezer, Kiss, and Star Wars, everything I love. So if I'm going to wrap up the year, I'm going to have everything that I love right around me. So that's why I chose.
I'm glad you showed, because I didn't even notice that. It never showed until you.
Yeah, well, because I'm sitting, I'm leaning forward, I'm crossing my arms in front of me. But yeah, it's a Kiss-related Weezer shirt. So with Star Wars,
awesome.
With Star Wars on it. So all right, buddy. Well, I know there's been some tough moments for you this year, some great moments. I hope 2021 brings you joy and happiness. And
thank you, pal.
I look forward to doing. We did 20 plus episodes this year together, and I look forward to doing another 20 plus next year. I was thinking about this last night. I do think I'm going to change your name from Partner in Crime to something else. So I got to think about it.
Really?
I got to think about what you're going to be for 20. That'll be
just call me. Just call me.
Just
Crime.
call me Angel.
Right. Now we're getting to Juice Newton.
This is all of the vocal performances you get from me. I'll have to think of a new nickname for you maybe for 2021. So anybody have any suggestions? If you've lasted whatever it is, close to 2 hours now that we're BSing about all this, put in the comments, what nickname should I have for Vincent? Is it Black Shirt Vinny?
Oh, boy.
What should be the new
And don't
nickname?
get racist and call me Black Shirt Guinea. Right?
That's right. That'll be what we close with. But you could tell us what you guys enjoyed about 2020, what you missed most about 2020, what you look forward to about 2021, and what Vincent's nickname should be starting next year. So
Thank you.
we'll retire the Partner in Crime, and we'll come up with something else. Maybe like Loser in a Fight. How about that?
Oh, thank you. That's very complimentary.
All right, buddy. On that Ed's note, you get a double Ringo for the end of this one.
Yeah.
Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed whatever holiday they celebrated. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, even Festivus for the rest of us, right? So enjoy the rest of your holidays. Enjoy the new year.
Yes. Take care, everyone.
All right. Later. Bye.
Later. Bye.
Alrighty, there you have it. I'd like to thank everybody for watching not only this episode, but for all of my episodes during this past year. I have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I truly appreciate all of your support. I'd also like to thank everybody who's followed me, whether it's on YouTube, one of my podcasts, my Facebook page, or anywhere else. Thank you so much. I hope 2021 brings you guys much more happiness and joy than the year that just passed. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button below. If you're listening to one of my podcasts, subscribe over there as well. Also, head on over to Facebook and follow my page, The Rock and Roll Experience with Mike Brunn, where each and every day we talk about all the rock and roll music that you love. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram as well. That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Happy New Year. and see you guys all in 2021.